So we'll start off today's session. This is Pranjal Kanpal. We are from Mudrex. Thank you, Zaid. We are from Mudrex, and we are starting with the next webinar of our thematic series. Today, we have Mr. Prashan Agarwal, who is a part of NFT marketplace called FanTiger, and he has been associated in revolutionizing the music industry with his latest venture. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Prashan Agarwal, the CEO and co-founder. He is no stranger to the world of entrepreneurship. He has over 21 years of experience in the professional world and has been a serial entrepreneur before this. Prashan's journey began with PropTiger, which became a really prominent name in the world of real estate, after which he started his stint with, from May 2016 as the CEO of Ghana.com. I'm pretty sure all or most of you will be aware of Ghana.com being, one of the major music apps and, the turning points of how music streaming was seen in not only India, but also the world. So after his stint with Ghana.com as CEO, since he already had an extensive experience in the music industry, he ventured into the ecosystem of Web3 and, started off with FanTiger as we know it today. So today, of course, in this session, we will be decoding NFTs, talking a lot interesting insights and aspects about it, while also understanding about the real-world applications in detail. So, guys, just want to say before the beginning of this session, this will be an interactive session. A series of questions and answers, really intriguing questions that will be posted by, you guys and us. So please keep posting your questions in the chat box on the side. And also, since this is an interactive session, we also have an awesome gift planned for you guys at the end by the FanTiger team. The top 3 questions will be rewarded in the form of a fan card, which is like an NFT of a popular artist, straight airdrop to your mail IDs. All right. So, jumping back to the session, before we start the discussion, Mr. Prashan, welcome to this session, and thank you for coming here and to enlighten all of us for this really intriguing space called NFTs. I would just like to ask you, how did you get into building FanTiger and what has your journey been like?
Thanks, Pranjal. It is a pleasure, to be part of this group and sharing my experiences. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, great. So my journey with the startup ecosystem has been quite long. I've been in the startup ecosystem now for almost 17 odd years. This is my third startup, but I started my journey with PropTiger, which was a real estate transaction marketplace way back in 2010. Built that to about $500 million of GMV. We also acquired housing, which was more like the real estate classified marketplace as well as Makan. I sold my stake to News Corp, which runs Star TV network in India, and they were essentially building a lot of real estate, classified plays across the world. Including real estate Australia, real estate US, and the like. And post that, I joined Ghana as the CEO. This was when I would say, internet was in infancy. Still, we had desktop websites. And at that point of time, I think, the biggest democratization that happened was because the data prices went down with, Geo launching around September 2016. That was a, big moment, I would say, for the internet ecosystem. So built Ghana, from there on the back of product, content, and brand building in terms of being the largest music streaming app in the country, more than 180 million users. They were consuming like more than 4 billion songs a month. Huge, kind of brand awareness. I think one of the interesting story was that we had essentially Ghana as a brand. We launched it as a song, Bas Bajna Chahiye Ghana. Okay, and I'm sharing this for the first time, but essentially we launched it as a song only. We didn't launch it as a brand campaign. And that song basically was available on all my competitors' apps.
Wow.
So you could go to a Sawan and you could listen to this as a song, and people were enjoying the song. And then after a week, we launched the brand campaign on TV. And that's when Sawan realized that, what the hell have we, they done, and they kind of took off that song from their platform. But been an interesting journey. We supported a lot of artists, right from, Neha Kakkar, Tony Kakkar's first song. Yeah. And we built almost, a Ghana originals as a mainstay, as a original content, with the largest Punjabi song till date called Lehenga. That was a Ghana original. Tera Mera Ghata. Correct. That was Tera Gata, which was again a massive super hit. Was a Ghana original. A lot of such, fantastic songs that we produced. Along that journey, it was very clear for us that, independent artists were going through major struggles in their lives, which, at Ghana, we were trying to solve through Ghana originals. But if you look at that entire ecosystem, I think 2-3 things that stand out is that users, the artists needed funding, they needed distribution, and they needed discovery of the content and talent.
Yeah.
And so we essentially saw that there was a huge gap in terms of addressing these 3 pain points. And that's where, FanTiger was born in terms of helping these artists raise funds from their fans using fan communities and NFTs, which we'll talk about a little more in detail. And the idea was that we help these independent artists raise funds, produce the songs that they want, and then basically help them on discovery and distribution and try to create the next, big independent artist from the FanTiger ecosystem.
Wow, that was really insightful to know. Just as an Easter egg, Mr. Prashan, it would be wonderful if you could tell us who were the artists in the the track Ghana.
In the track Ghana, it was produced by Amit Trivedi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Amit Trivedi's also claim to fame was, that I think the jingle that he created at that point of time, he was doing more jingles. Then he went into the main production.
Yeah.
And then there was, of course, the people who did the music video. I don't remember. There was a bot.
So
Amit Trivedi was
the music producer in there. Okay. Nice. So Mr. Pramod is asking, what's the story behind Tiger in the name of startup? So if you could just enlighten us, why FanTiger? So this is an intriguing question. How did the name come up?
Yeah. So basically, my first venture was called PropTiger, as we all know now. So Tiger essentially, I think, it reflects a cool balance for me in terms of being, royal and, being very postured as well as being aggressive. And I think being a startup is all about being aggressive at the right time and being calm at, at certain times. And just, I think the charm of, being, the number one in the jungle or whatever you want to call it. That's also some reflective of the kind of venture we want to create here.
Yeah.
Now, so FanTiger was something that was available, and lucky that we got FanTiger.com, so that's the brand we went with.
Amazing. That's indeed insightful. Moving on.
And I have a couple of more tigers to come.
Sure. We look forward to that, Mr. Prashan. So before progressing to the next question, I would just like to ask you, we talked about NFT, right? The FanTiger, being a marketplace, NFT marketplace, right? Before that, I would just like you to tell everybody about, so NFT is a part of Web3. And we have progressed over, the evolution of Web 2 to Web 3. I would just like you to shed a little bit of light on that. How is Web 3 different from Web 2, and how have we progressed over the course of the years?
See, Web 2 essentially is all the platforms that we see that have progressed in the last, I would say, 10 years. Think of Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and any other platform that is kind of including Ghana, PropTiger, and the likes. These are Web 2 platforms because essentially these are mostly a centralized platforms where users are kind of the consumers, but the company, the data, etc. is controlled by centralized entities.
Right.
So while the progress of the internet that we have seen has been such that you could now store data at a central place like a CDN, and you could kind of broadcast it to, millions of people. That is the beauty of, Web 2, where essentially, you have these centralized platforms, centralized databases, which are then broadcasting information to millions of people. And these millions of people are consuming the content. Of course, they are sharing their data in an open market, and that data then get resold by these centralized entities to make revenue.
Right.
The second big difference, so this is Web 2. And the second thing in Web 2 is that the value capture is with the centralized entities, which is to say that the entire value that gets created in forming a company or forming a venture, the entire value of that success is captured by the investors and the founders, or maybe the team through ESOP.
Right.
Now in the Web3 ecosystem, there are 2-3 fundamental things. Is one that we want to decentralize platforms, we want to decentralize data, we want to decentralize content, so that no centralized entity has kind of control over the data, which would essentially mean over time that the user can control his own data, the creator can control his own data rather than succumbing to the centralized platforms. Of course, it's a roadmap. I don't think it can happen in a day, but essentially that's the concept, is that you can now have P2P, essentially peer-to-peer transactions of unlimited nature across various dimensions of content pieces and stuff. The second biggest thing that actually interests me a lot is basically that value creation and value capture is across the ecosystem, which is to say that the users, the creators, the artists, the founders, the team. So think of it like a ESOP. What ESOP is to Web2, now you are basically saying that there will be ESOP, there will be USOP for users, there will be vendors OP for vendors, there will be creators OP for creators and whatnot. So that tomorrow when the company becomes $1 billion company or whatever, $100 billion company, you don't have very limited stakeholders who are gaining from that success. So while creators definitely get revenue share for the content that they upload on, let's say, whatever platform we can think of, you now also are part of the ownership of the platform. So tomorrow, if you become a large company, the early creators who are working with you, they basically, much like the early employees who are now with us, they are equal participants, because the thing is that the success of the platform is dependent on every stakeholder, not just the founder and the team and the investor. Okay. So those would be the two key differences that I kind of.
So, Mr. Prashan, I'm sure that so I have actually heard about this question from a lot of places when we talk about decentralized technologies, right? When we talk about decentralized content creation, for that matter, right? So if there is no controlling agency or no controlling institution, who takes care of the censorship part of it? Because I'm pretty sure that we have seen people from Facebook and Instagram who say that there is some really gore content that comes in, which can be really harmful to a psyche of a child or something like that, right? So who takes care of the censorship part here?
So see, that's why I said the decentralization basically works towards the end goal of no censorship and data being at multiple places.
Yeah.
But I think we always have to think of from a user point of view. So when we are building a venture, the user is important. So if the content doesn't load in less than half a second, the user's attention span is so less he'll be gone. So if you are thinking of creating a decentralized CDN, you have to beat Akamai at the kind of speeds at which Akamai is delivering content. You cannot think that just because of decentralization, people will look at, videos which are loading and loading, right? That's the first thing.
Right.
The second thing is decentralization comes at a cost, which is, should we go to a completely uncensored environment, including even for crypto, we say, should we go to a completely unregulated environment? Now, the thing is that I am not a proponent to go to the extreme. I think there's a lot of learning that has been built in Web2 over the last 30-40 years, both in banking, in content, in discovery algorithms and the like. And so what you have to do is you have to use the best of what's available in Web2, and then basically enhance that to the Web3 ecosystem in terms of what are the things that we can take from Web3. Completely going for an unregulated environment, completely going for an uncensored environment, those are kind of, I would say, utilitarian concept. I don't know if I'm getting that word right. We, as a company, I think, we always think about how do we use, and that's why I took the example of ESOP and USOP and whatnot, is to make it simple for people to understand that Web3 is no kind of, alien concept. It's a concept which has roots. It has some extreme roots, but we need to make sure that, how we kind of adopt it and make it user-friendly.
That was wonderful. Mr. Ravi Raj, so I'll just drop in a question here. Mr. Ravi Raj, firstly, he says, Prashan, you are an undoubtedly pioneer in real estate space with FanTiger and in the song streaming space with Ghana.com. Have been fan of both as an early adopter, and thanks for showing us what was possible in this space using Web2. The question is, aren't you a bit late to the Web3 NFT scene? When do you think you will be having the tiger moment, so to speak, with FanTiger? So that's his question.
Well, a good question. I think, one is that Web3 itself is a very early space. NFT is even much earlier. So I think, the way to think about it is that there are two aspects to this entire development of the blockchain Web3 ecosystem. One is the speculative phase, which we saw in the last 2-3 years, where, crypto prices went through the roof, NFT prices went through the roof. Some of these use cases were there, some of them didn't even have use cases. And I think that speculation is now kind of, behind us. And then, in my opinion, that's a good thing, because I think real use cases and real products are what will kind of make this entire ecosystem successful, not just projects which, hype and kind of create a noise in the space and kind of, do not survive.
Yeah.
So I would say that NFT, the real game starts now, where you are actually solving for the real world use cases.
Yeah.
Of course, the markets are down. You look at Web 2, you look at Web 3. I think the investment market or VC sentiments are currently kind of, I would say, low. But I've seen now 3 cycles.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the time is for all of us to kind of get our heads down, get to work, make sure we are solving the right problems, and wait for the right time to actually create the tiger movement, as we said.
Yeah, that was very nice. So, Mr. Prashan, we have like the next 3 questions are pertaining to NFT and Web3. Before that, I would just like to pitch in the 2 questions that we have, but I would like to club them and ask together. So the first one is, of course, just in the continuation of the conversation, some of the really good use cases of Web3 that you are excited about, and of course, NFT being the subset of one of them, as you told. We would like you to, shed some light on NFTs, and then maybe we can progress with the user questions here on NFTs.
Sure. So I think the couple of use cases that I am particularly excited, I think DeFi or FinTech, as we call in the Web2 space. I think the entire ecosystem of blockchain, was initially meant for financial transactions. And I think that has completely revolutionized, point-to-point instant transfer. And so that I think clearly, and that's where I think Mudrex is also doing great job in terms of building, a platform for creating coin set, mutual fund, whatever you want to call it, on top of those tokens, so to say. So I think the DeFi is clearly one big use case that I see, which is already kind of doing pretty good. The second use case, in my opinion, is NFTs, which is where, we are playing a couple of other, industries are also, focused on the NFT space. Be excited about that and what it can do to the creator economy. The third would be, I would say, supply chain, where essentially organic food, origin of clothes, all of these are becoming more and more important for people who are kind of looking at sustainable future, sustainable farming and the like. And so traceability becomes one important thing, and the traceability can be enabled on the blockchain. Real estate is another, I would say, use case which I think can be, there can be multiple use cases of using blockchain in the real estate space. I think registry is one kind of a bottleneck there, because every time the property changes hands, it has to be registered, and you have to pay some stamp duty. That's like a tax on every transaction. Otherwise, I think it's a beautiful way that you can use blockchain to revolutionize real estate. So these would be 3-4, I would say, kind of high level big use cases that I see.
Okay. So again, from the second point, we would transition to a couple of, audience questions, and these are pertaining to NFTs only. So, Mr. Suresh Royal asks, there are so many doubts on the buyer side on the NFTs. What are the major benefits to the NFT buyer, and any way that seller will get the money? I'm sure, I think, Mr. Suresh, if you could just elaborate on your question. From what I gather, I think he needs to know if, how does a seller know that he'll get his money after selling an NFT? So, Mr. Suresh, if you are there on the call, you could elaborate a question.
Okay.
His mic is not working. You could type the question, Mr. Suresh. Mr. Prashan, let's at least answer the first part. Like, there are so many doubts on the buyer side. What are the major benefits to the NFT buyer? Yeah.
See, basically, I would say that, when you look at NFTs, there are multiple forms and shapes in which NFTs come. Like you had the initial phase where basically there are picture NFTs or PFP NFTs, as we call them. And that is more community oriented. So think of it like, there's the, whichever Taj Residency Club in Mumbai, and you're seeking a membership to that club because you want to, sit next to Mr. Ambani, and that, possibly costs, 1 crore rupees to just get the membership. On top of that, you also have to pay some monthly fee, etc., etc. But even on top of that, it's difficult. Even if you have the money, you don't get the club membership, because there's so much of waiting. So it's the similar story when you start looking at the PFP NFTs like Bored Ape, Yacht, BAYC, MAYC, etc., etc. I think the biggest use case for them is kind of status, and second is kind of the camaraderie of the membership you're looking at in terms of a kind of a community that you want to join. So tomorrow you might be sitting next to Elon Musk or, Mark Zuckerberg, or who do you know, if you are part of such exclusive membership clubs. So that is one bit, and I think there the value appreciation happens, much like what I'm telling you in terms of a Taj Presidency Club. The value appreciation happens because there's only so many slots and there's too much demand. And the demand is mostly to be part of that exclusive group. On top of that, you can get privileges, like there could be some parties, there could be some meetup events where you get to meet these people, etc., etc. And I think that's where the story is. But I think, and that's a great story. Because, if you want to be part of an exclusive club, then you are looking at the top, blue chip NFTs, and you go and invest there. And the price, of course, appreciates as kind of that group becomes exclusive. The other is basically real world use cases where the NFTs are essentially tied back to some kind of a asset. And in our case, let's say the music royalty. In which case, in our case, it's very simple that we enable artists to raise funds. So I'll just talk about maybe how FanTiger works is basically we help artists raise funds. So we help them raise about $10,000, where 10,000 NFTs are launched at $1, a piece, where these buyers would come and buy these NFTs, and what they essentially get is 2-3 things. One is that they get a royalty share on the song. So if the song does well, you get about 50% of the royalties paid back to the buyers. So that is one way of income. Second is that you can buy and sell as the song becomes bigger. You can actually sell the NFT to another buyer who's looking to buy, as the annuity income. And the third is, of course, the privileges, because here you can get to meet your favorite artist. You can, attend a concert like we have done now, 5-6 concerts. We did with Diljit Dosanjh, we did the Divine show, we did another Nalaik show. So all of that are basically kind of money can't buy privileges, where you get to meet new artists and, sit next to them. So these are the two use cases that I think you look at. One is picture NFTs and the other one is, let's say, non-picture NFTs, as we call them.
Okay.
The seller gets their money. So just to answer the last bit, so basically the way it works is when a person buys, the platform takes a cut. We take about a 10% cut on the purchase, and the rest of the money goes to the seller.
Okay. Speaking of the artists, Priyank Chauhan asks, are artists excited about the Web3 tech in music? Do they understand its potential? And what are their takes on Web3? So I would like to ask you your perception also when you're onboarding artists onto your platform. What's their usual thinking like? And maybe if you have to go through the management, I mean, what is the entire thinking or structure of that? Yeah.
So see, one is that there was a hype cycle where, NFTs were hyped up around 1.5 years back. At that point of time, the artist essentially saw this as a kind of piece of making money. They did not understand the use case. They didn't understand the value that fan communities can create. And one of the things that we did was educate the artists that, fan communities are the future. So if you are able to kind of create and nurture a fan community, then you can sustain your career for long, because discovery of songs is important, and you have to have a community which pushes your career further, along with taking the upside as your career progresses. I think that narrative, and of course we started with couple of big name artists. We started with Sunanda Sharma in Punjab, which is the #1 female artist in Punjab, and we worked with Akhil Sachdeva, Humsafar from Badri Ki Dulhania fame. So these initial, breaks also helped us. It was a good thing that I had worked with all these artists in my previous, career at Dana. So it's a little easier to convince them. But of course, I think, now they also appreciate the fact that, the kind of ownership that I talked about, that you own the platform. And so you are actually participating, you're pretty much like an angel investor, pro bono in the success of the startup. Yeah.
So transitioning to another NFT related question, which sectors do you think the NFTs or the digital collectibles they're going to disrupt? Well, I mean, what are the current relevant industries that will be disrupted by this technology?
See, I think gaming industry, the music industry. So if you look at gaming industry, in-game assets is already more than a $20-30 billion bucket. And that is expected to blow up because now there'll be opportunity for in-game assets to transcend games. So they can be used across, multiple games, multiverse and, the likes. On the music side of things, I think there's a lot of movement because all these independent artists have been struggling for both funding and discovery. I think funding is one problem that we are solving with FanTiger. We are also launching another platform which is in the beta phase called FanTV, where we are solving for the discovery of the artist, because discovery is again a big problem in the centralized platform because most of the views are reserved for the bigger artists, so to say. Yeah. And then you have real estate. All the content that you see, and not just music, it could be any piece of content, blogging, gaming, live streaming, and the likes. All of that will be, disrupted by this technology as we kind of progress.
Okay. I think we had a question. So Anubhav asks, blockchain in Web3 is going to help many industries. How can NFTs or blockchain be used in real estate?
See, I think in real estate, the beauty of real estate is that, people already have aspiration to own real estate. And most of the customers definitely want to own a piece of real estate. Sometimes the costs are very high, so they are not able to buy into that real estate. Second is, so NFTs can help in terms of tokenization of real estate, where multiple people can own real estate. And real estate investment, as we all know, 80% of India's savings is in real estate. Because, inherently we save either in gold or real estate. So I think, the entire appreciation of real estate, the value that, gets attributed there goes back to people who have the money. And so, pretty much people who don't have the money to put in 25-30 lakhs find it very difficult to participate in real estate as an investment class. So that is clearly one use case. If you are able to tokenize real estate, then users can participate and participate in the appreciation that happens. Second is the transaction volumes of real estate has been low because of, as I said, registry and stamp duty being taken in every transaction, and that slows down the velocity. So if there is an opportunity where, the government relaxes stamp duty and registry, there could be massive, value creation, because a lot of transaction volume growth can be seen. And especially if it's on the blockchain, then you don't have to worry about the title report and whether, it's a genuine flat or not, etc., etc. So that can really kind of increase the velocity of sales in real estate.
Okay. Yeah. So, Mr. Prashan, transitioning to the next set of questions, we have a question from Mr. Sunil. How are top artists reacting to this new way of ownership? So, as you spoke about, music NFTs is a new way of ownership and content sharing. I would just also, like you to ask this, answer this question in two parts. So the first one is, how is music NFTs, or how is this particular space or technology solving the problems that were there in the traditional music market or industry? And the second one, of course, which is Mr. Sunil's question, that how are the artists, the top ones that you've collaborated with, how are they reacting to this new way?
So see, when you look at the music industry, it's structured in a way where the artist creates content. He goes and sells that content to a music label. The music label basically takes all the rights to the song. Then the music label distributes this song through platforms like YouTube, Spotify, Gaana, Saavn, etc., etc. And when those platforms essentially pay back to these labels on either a subscription revenue share or a kind of a free tier, where pay per stream or pay per view is kind of the format. that basically get used. Now the thing is, since the artist has already given his IP to the music label, the entire upside of a song being successful is captured by the music label. So in most cases, the artist doesn't get more than 5-6% of the actual revenues of a song. So that is one. The second thing is, from a discovery standpoint, what happens is most of the artists who are big, they get most of the mind share and the revenue share from these platforms. While it goes to the label, of course, but the newer artists find it more and more difficult to be able to break that ladder. So these are two big problems that we are trying to solve with FanTiger and FanTV, where FanTiger essentially helps the artist raise funds, because the artist needs funds because of two things. One is music creation is not very expensive. Music creation takes about, let's say, 1.5-2 lakh to create a good piece of song, given that you are talented and you need some sound engineer, etc., etc. The biggest cost is in the music video, because when you create a video, the cost can go anywhere from 3-5 lakh rupees going up to 1 crore. So what we do is we help these artists raise the cost to create the content from their fans, and in lieu of that, they basically give up 50% of the royalty to the fans. Now that's a beautiful win-win, because the artist continues to keep the IP with him. He didn't have to put any money from his own pocket, which is also difficult because not many artists have that kind of money. So his content creation, production cost is taken care of, his marketing cost is taken care of, and then he partakes 50% of the upside. So if the song becomes a hit, he goes on to gain multi-fold. Second is, the fans basically anyway love the artist, they get to meet the artist, they also get the upside of 50% of the royalty. So that is what we solve with FanTiger. On the discovery side of things, I think the creators owning the platform is something that everyone appreciates, because if you look at it, if you look at TVF, now what TVF has done is that they create fantastic pieces of content. So they went into creating their own IP and their own platform called TVF Play. Right. Now that very few creators have that kind of bandwidth to create content and also create a platform and make it successful, because creating a platform needs a completely separate kind of a DNA. Now, why did TVF need to do that is because they said that, okay, we are creating the content, we put it on YouTube, the entire, value creation is on YouTube. YouTube's valuation is $100 billion. We make whatever rev share, right? And so I think the beauty is that if you create a platform where the creators own the platform and they also get the revenue share, which is FanTV, where it's essentially the best of both worlds. So the creator owns the platform, so he has a decent upside. He gets his rev share. He doesn't have the headache of creating the platform. So I think this is the future would be that the very big creators like Mr. Beast in the US, they have their own platforms. Yeah, maybe 2 or 3 of them, and then you have the 500 who are well known, but they cannot run a platform. They'll come to us, and then there's basically the long tail who can choose between different platforms. So I think it's a great amalgamation of FanTiger solving for funding and FanTV solving for discovery and distribution.
So this could be like a
and the top artists love it.
Yeah, really great collaboration between a YouTube level platform and in a decentralized way, because of course you don't have any centralized. Also, it's creator level.
So that's what we are building at FanTV. So that's what we are building, and I'll encourage. We launched it I think mid of July, but it's in beta. You can do a test drive on the Play Store.
Okay, looking forward to that, Mr. Prashan. So we would take one final question that we had, like, what does FanTiger have in store for us, and like what can we look forward to, when it comes to the future of music, the future of artistry, and the future of performances through FanTiger?
So I think the biggest thing that we want to revolutionize is, independent creators, independent artists getting to the center stage. Building a platform is all about catalog. So I think, one of the things that you have to get right is you cannot do without the label, right? Or you cannot do without the big creators. While your focus is to give a good, mileage or reach to the independent creators, as a user, he would want to consume both. So it's a kind of fallacy if you try to build a platform only for independent creators. I think the beauty of a good platform is to have the right catalog, have all the content available, and then create algorithms which are not biased. And that's where I think decentralization of algorithm is the biggest thing that I also see happening, is that we want to open source our algorithms and make sure that at least 30% of the views on FanTV are for independent artists. And then slowly increase that to 50%. So then you are saying that, okay, in my algorithm itself, I have proposition that 50% of consumption has to go to independent artists. And that basically creates a much more equal world as compared to a 90% to top creators, which is what is happening in the current ecosystem. On the FanTiger front, we are looking at doing about 200 songs this year. So we'll be enabling at least 20-30 artists, helping them launch their songs, helping them build their career, and hope that we have the next big artist come out of our platform.
Right. So there are two more questions, Mr. Prashan. So first one is from Mr. Vikram Nagpal. He asks, how do you perceive NFT market in India and what are the current challenges? So if you could just relate it to, the current challenges in the NFT market for FanTiger, and maybe some other, examples in the country.
See, I think the biggest challenge today is the regulation in terms of 1% TDS. Because what's happening is that, we have almost 200,000 transactions on a monthly basis on our platform for NFTs. And the users who are coming to us are pretty much fans. They are playing in, the sub $10 kind of a bracket. And to be able to pay 1% TDS on every transaction, you won't make that kind of profit in the early stages. It becomes too much of a tax that you're paying.
Yeah.
Plus you have to pay the 30% tax. I think 30% tax, if you make profit, doesn't matter to most people. But the 1% TDS is the big challenge. The second is the payment gateways. I think the support from the payment gateways has not been forthcoming. We face challenges with the payment gateways sometimes, shutting down, kind of, coming up, and there's no clear mandate that the payment gateways have. Yeah. So these are two challenges that I see mostly specific to, I would say, regulation and banking in India. But I think otherwise we've had a good run in terms of the Indian market.
Right. Mr. Prashant asks, are you guys open to all languages for music NFT, or are you restricted to a certain language? So he's talking about FanTiger.
See, we are open to all languages. We have done one Tamil, we have done a couple of Bhojpuri, we have done a couple of Hindi, a couple of Punjabi. The biggest thing is that as we are building a community, we need a decent scale to be able to, sell out the NFTs, of course. And so we don't try to go into, let's say, multiple languages. We go one by one. So today, I think we are catering to 4 languages. So we will definitely get to about 15 languages in the next year, in the next 12 months. So pretty much, if you have something, please share with us. You can go to FanTiger, you can upload your content, you can register as a creator, and then there's a process through which our team essentially gets back to you and help you kind of launch the NFT. So there is no language restriction except for the fact that if we don't have a user base, then we would discourage at least for a couple of months till we get active in that market.